My name's James and I'm a musician, songwriter and producer from Newcastle, Australia. And today I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing my new drum kit from Relic Drum Co. Let's go. So the drums from Relic Drum Co are owned and distributed by their parent company, Rec, which is a brand founded in Melbourne, Australia. Products are designed in Melbourne and then produced around the globe. So as for the kit, I decided to go with the Lineage drum range. And as for the sizes, the shell pack is an 18 by 14 kick drum, a 10 by 8 rack tom, a 14 by 14 floor tom, and then you have to buy the snare separately. So for the snare drum, I decided to go with the matching Lineage in a 13 by 7 size. All drums are in the Black Oyster wrap, which as you can see are really beautiful looking. Although I will say the wrap on the kick drum where it meets is actually quite harsh. It's not like a nice clean joining point. So that's one little negative so far that I've found. But the other really beautiful thing about these drums is the inner shell, which is a combination of North American maple and African mahogany. The combination of, the maple and mahogany just looks so nice. The deep sort of reddy brown just look really, really beautiful. So when it comes to the price, I think aesthetically, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. Now, when unboxing the drum kit, I was checking over all of the bearing edges and all of the internal mechanisms that hold, the lug connectors and the feet. And I will say there were 1 to 2 sort of rough bearing edges, nothing too bad, nothing that I think, is going to be a problem when it comes to tuning or even get worse over time. Everything was really, really smooth, just, maybe 1 or 2 little patches, of maybe 2 to 3 millimeters, but all of, the internal sort of bolts and locking mechanisms and all that sort of stuff, great, nothing to be faulted there. I think as to be expected, the skins that come with the drum kit aren't of the highest quality. They are labeled by Remo. However, it doesn't say specifically what model of Remo skin it is. They do seem very thin. And I think due to that, when initially tuning the drums, they did sound a little bit lackluster. But it's been a few months now since I've had the drum kit and I've learnt sort of the sweet spots of where to tune each drum to. I've also noticed that the sort of skins are really set in now. However, I do think I will replace the batter head for the kick drum to something a little bit thicker, a bit more robust, because it is a very, very thin skin and not necessarily suited to my playing style. The reso head for the kick drum is quite nice though, and I definitely think I will be replacing the batter heads for the tom and floor tom as well. Just same sort of thing, really too thin, and I like a nice warm tom sound, which you're more likely to get from a thicker coated head than what's currently on there. As you'll see as well, I have used some drum mutes. I've used the sticky hand hack to repress some of the overtones, specifically for the snare drum. Being the 13 by 7, it is a snare drum that kind of really wants to be tuned pretty high. And due to that, there are quite a lot of overtones that, depending on the style that you're playing, I think could work really, really well. But again, for my style, I've got 2 sticky hands on there at the moment, just suppressing some of those more intense overtones, particularly when you're doing like rim shots, because it really likes to ring out. I did notice as well during the unboxing that there was some manufacturing residue left over on the rubber feet of the kick drum, which I don't know what that is, but from that I would assume that these kits are being made, shipped to Melbourne, and then aren't really quality inspected in the Melbourne factory, because if they did go through a quality control process, all that sort of like residue and stuff would have been wiped off. I think the other thing that I've noticed as well over the past few months of owning the drum kit is that inside the kick drum, there's also been a very fine dust, almost like a powder, that has begun to build up inside over time. I'm guessing that is, again, sort of like a quality control thing where as the internal shell has been sort of finished, that, the dust from the manufacturing process hasn't been fully removed to a high degree. So something to consider there. So as a recording engineer, something I've always wanted to do is do a bit of a comparison between how a non-ported kick drum sounds to a ported kick drum, and also to a kick drum that has no head on it at all. So this was my opportunity to really dive into how do these different techniques really sound, what kind of different sounds can you get, what classic sounds can you get from not having a pillow inside versus to having a pillow inside, and having it ported, not ported, no reso. So for the second half of this video, what I'm going to do is exactly that, and all of that's going to be clarified on screen so there's no confusion. And that's going to be isolated kick drum by itself, and then also kick drum with a beat. And as for the cymbals, I don't currently own a nice set of cymbals. Rec, you could maybe hook me up with a good set, but I am actually rocking their low volume set at the moment, which surprisingly sound and record quite good. So my final conclusions for the drum kit is that I'm really happy with it. For the price point of $970 Australian for, the shell pack, and then another $330 for the snare, I think you get a really, really good bang for your buck drum kit that is quite versatile. All of the sounds that you guys just heard are from just, a single sort of tuning perspective. I've messed around with the snare tuning quite a bit, sort of higher and lower of what you've heard. And at the moment, I am rocking it a little bit lower than what you've just heard, and it sounds really nice. I'm really happy with the snare right now. Same thing with the toms. It took me a little longer to get the toms, specifically with the reso heads. I do find that the sympathetic resonance that I'm getting from the kick drum to the floor tom has been a little bit difficult to really hone in, but I think I'm getting it much closer now. And I had the same problem with the rack tom to the snare drum. Every time I would hit the rack tom, it would just buzz the snare, but I've honed it in a little bit more so that the sympathetic resonances are at least more desirable, which is sort of how you want your drum kit. It is the kit. The only things that I would probably want to improve if I could would be when it comes to the pack itself. I think I probably would have preferred a 12-inch rack tom instead of a 10-inch. I probably will get another snare drum in time once I'm over the 13. Get a standard, 14 by 5.5, probably a nice brass or a steel sort of snare, just to get something that is a little bit more all-rounder. Because the 13's really good, but being a 13, it does have a few limitations, I think, when it comes to the tuning range, and I guess when it comes to the tension of the batter head as well. Responsiveness is slightly different between a 13 and a 14, and just comes down to playing style, particularly with my not only playing style, but I think when it comes to recording the drums, having that versatility of a 14 around would be really handy. The other big negative that I have found is actually the kick drum riser. So the kick drum riser, this little metal sort of pole that then breaks out into sort of a bar that you then connect your kick pedal to. And what I found is the bar itself is slightly too thick at the midpoint. So you kind of have to put your kick drum pedal off to one side and then offset the actual pedal itself on the crossbar so that it hits in the center. So that's actually probably my biggest gripe with the kit itself. Obviously, there's ways around that. And particularly with my kick pedal, it's just a cheap one at the moment. I am going to upgrade it. But like most kick pedals, it's got that sort of taperedness. And because of that, it is thinner at the top edges of the taper, which also doesn't quite fit in how thick the bar is. So I think that is something that I'm probably going to have a look into, as well as getting a separate kick drum riser that is a little bit more versatile. I know you can get them out there and they're quite inexpensive, but I guess, that is just one of the more disappointing things is, having to get that sort of thing. It comes with its own built-in system, but it's just not flexible or efficient as it really sort of should be. So I guess with all that out of the way, what do you guys think of the sounds that you've heard? Are you guys interested in purchasing a Relic Drum Co drum kit? So that's it from me in this one. I'll catch you next time.